We're at Baltimore Comic Con 2017. We're talking Bolivar, an absolutely amazing series. So I've read the graphic novel. The first question is just, where did you actually come up with the concept?
Good question. The original concept was about a mayor of New York City that woke up and found he was a dinosaur, and nobody noticed. And I realized that really didn't work for more than a page or two, and that the more interesting idea was about a dinosaur that just lived in New York City. And then I started wondering, okay, well, what does he do? What does he like to eat? Where does he like to go? What does he do for fun? And the whole book really came out of that.
So I know this has been, 5 years in the making, roughly?
Yes.
Was that just partially because the art was so intricate to do? I mean, the art is breathtaking.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely part of it. The other big thing was I was just kind of living life. I had 2 kids, got married in the middle of it, and something that was just sort of all-encompassing, or it needed a lot of attention. So I kind of work in spurts, and then really the last 2 years has been the most intense amount of work after all the planning. But yeah.
So the book is interesting in that, while it's a graphic novel, there's some kind of storybooks aspects to it on top of, more traditional comic panels. When kind of designing it, was there thought process of kind of bouncing between the two at all? Did you kind of do that on purpose? Was it kind of an organic thing?
Yeah, it was really, it came out of the process of writing it. I had originally thought of it as being more of a picture book. And then the more I thought about it, the more I kind of wanted to listen to what the characters were saying. So I started writing dialogue for them. And once that happened, I retained a lot of the picture book elements with a lot of the comic strip elements over it. So it was really more about writing the original book or the original voiceover, and then listening to the characters, seeing what they had to say, and that's where the panels came from.
So part of it feels also kind of like a love letter to New York. Was there, was that kind of part of the story at all? I mean, it's really kind of funny in that, there's this theme of just people are really busy, they're not paying attention to things, and eventually, it kind of comes together, and people, I don't want to give the whole story away, but it seems like the city itself is like a huge part of the book.
Yeah, well, I'm from there. My whole family is really, and so I do love New York. I don't live there anymore. I do miss it, but I thought that if anything, if you were going to buy the idea of a dinosaur running around, the environment had to be really believable. So it was fun to draw those places. Those are mostly places that I would go to, if not all places I would go to when I lived there. And that's why you have a grocery store instead of like a tourist destination, for example.
With the art, since it is it's in New York, with the various locations it's going to. Were you taking actual images as inspiration? If we go there, if I were to go there, would this kind of look very similar to what's actually there, or are you kind of just going with the fantastical elements and having fun with it?
Yes. A lot of the locations are fairly, I would hope, are fairly accurately portrayed. When they're not, the goal was to give an impression of what it felt like to be in them. So, like Central Park, I mean, there's one page with the arch in the Ramble section of the park, which is there, but other parts are just kind of like mixes and matches of things. But yeah, it's hopefully it'll be recognizable to people who live there and people who visited. So
the story's completely adorable. Absolutely love it. The art is, as I said, breathtaking, unbelievable. How would you actually describe the style? Like, I don't even know how to describe it to people.
There's a lot of cross-hatching.
Yeah, cross-hatching is about all I've got.
Yeah,
and that's about it. So how long does it actually take you to do, like, just a panel, a page?
I think I think the estimate was like 20 hours per spread. It's like 10 hours per page. So that's probably including. That's probably just a line art, and then it would probably be another 5 hours with coloring. It's sort of like a paint. Like each spread, 2-page spread, was prepared almost like a digital painting. There's a drawing that's done with graphite pencil, scanned into a computer, and then the colors put over with Photoshop, and then that's where the look comes from. Doing that whole process could take more than 20 hours usually.
Yeah, now I'm trying to do the math in my head. I was like, it's 117 pages roughly. So yeah, as I said, the book's 5 years in the making. Yeah, how does it feel to finally get to this point where it's almost on the shelves?
Weird. No, it's true. It's been in my head for so long, and I think in a lot of people's heads. So to see it physically, here, we're looking at it. I'm not used to that yet. I think I'm still working on it.
With the, what's the general reaction? Because I remember seeing there was a bit, and I think it was Free Comic Book Day like 3 years ago, roughly. And then I want to say I saw an actual original piece of art, maybe from you at a convention, I think, or someone showed it to me. And at that point I said, holy crap, this is absolutely stunning and amazing. What is the reaction, the feedback you've been getting from people seeing it? Because I can't think of any other comic that looks like this that's out on the shelves currently.
First, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm trying not to totally kiss your ass, but it's not.
No, people. The best thing is that I've seen a number of people open it up and they're just immediately surprised, and that's very rewarding for me. We were hoping to really surprise people with this title. It is unusual, and we're really hoping it finds an audience. I think a lot of people will really like it.
So when putting together, I held it in my hands. I've read it, and immediately I'm like, this is an instant classic. Again, try not to totally kiss your butt. By the time you're done with, do you know when you're finished with it and be like, this is really good? I mean, you gotta have, because this is one where I see it and I'm just like, this is amazing, this is fantastic, it's a great read, it's beyond entertaining. I was laughing, I was touched, everything about it. You as a creator, when you finish it, do you get a sense of I nailed it? Or are you gonna do the humble of no.
I worked on it as long as they'd let me. And the goal when I was finishing it is I wanted to finish something that I was happy with, and I was happy with it when I finished it. But I really appreciate your response to it. It means a lot to me.
So with the character designs, all the kids are very different. Everything's very unique. It's part of the thing that I love is everything, no matter if it's bodega or in a museum or school or whatever. There's just so much character and design to each of that. When you were kind of designing everything, from the characters to the locations, were you kind of doing up on a fly? Is there sketchbooks somewhere where you're here's the various characters that are going to make up?
Yeah, I should probably be a little bit better about drawing things on model. There are best practices for that. I don't usually follow them. But I did have some models and some sketches for the characters going into it. I did my best to have some sort of consistency with the buildings and other things. And to be honest, that can be really tedious, so sometimes you'll be in the middle of that and just I don't really feel like doing that today, and you'll just kind of break your own rules a little. And there's a lot of push and pull over that. 224-page book, to try to keep everything consistent and everything realistic when possible was tricky. So yeah. With
the graphic novel, was there any point that you thought of I want to do this as single issues, or was it always a graphic novel that you wanted to put out?
I think that was talked about 5 years ago, but at the end of the day, we just said no. We really wanted this to be a book. So I'm just I suppose a stylistic choice. It would have been interesting to do separate issues. Probably would have worked just fine, but something about trying to put it in, trying to have people sort of see it in more bedtime reading. Yep. I think it was just important to just have it as a book with a hardcover with a dust jacket, the whole 9 yards immediately.
And the kind of the final question off of it. So obviously this is. It's an all-ages book. Everyone's going to enjoy it, but it definitely feels, as you said, it's a bedtime book. It's one you want to sit down and read with your kids. For you as a creator, was that something you always wanted to intend to? Is there any particular reason you kind of went with that sort of a story?
Well, when I started working on it, I wasn't married, I didn't have any children. When I finished it, I was married and had 2 children. While I think I was trying to get some sort of bedtime story or picture book thing going originally, reading books to my kids really made me think more about what that would be like for other people to read this story to their kids. And it definitely affected some of the later editing of it and how it all came together, yeah. Yeah,
I actually want to make this the final question. Yeah. With the story, obviously you've had a huge shift in your life. How has it impacted the story itself?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I gotta imagine it's a different perspective doing a kid's book without kids, and then doing a kid's book with your own kids.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the weird things, in some senses, my editors encouraged me to fire the writer, which means that, once I wrote the book, just illustrated and stopped changing the story. I think the biggest thing was just creating something that the chapters were in digestible lengths, so that you could kind of go through it in 5 days in a week. and just kind of knowing what my own son's like, and thinking, okay, if I were to read this to them, how would it go over? I wouldn't say that they're my primary audience in this, because the book was just written before they were around, but definitely editing and putting it together and thinking about it, it was really informed by my experience reading to them. So yeah.
Cool. I appreciate it. Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.